So what LaRouche's response to what Sergei Lavrov said was the following: that this is what happened in World War One. World War One destroyed the values that America had. It drowned them in blood in the European War. And following World War One, you had this emergence of a decadent culture, which was known as the Roaring Twenties. But and FDR rescued us somewhat from that. So now, where did the classical culture and classical music and the values that Lincoln had, or that represented a conception of man, a conception of society, a universal conception of society, where we fought the Civil War from the North fought the Civil War from the standpoint of whether or not a society could exist that could be organized by the people, of the people, by the people, for the people. But that principle, by the way, which was enunciated at the Davos Forum by the president of China, Xi Jinping, who used that as the basis for explaining his intervention into the financial system, that he said that the reason that you had a financial crisis was not because of the free flow of goods, but was because of the depredations caused by the financial sector on the economy, and looting and using the financial means to loot and plunder rather than develop. So, and what he's proposing is massive waves of increased scientific and technological progress. That's how you solve the problem. You go to the higher level of productive power of the population. You upgrade their living standard, and you upgrade the scientific component of you, and so forth. Now, where does this whole thing begin to go against all of this? Because Leibniz, who was around in the early 1700s, was the principal founder of the ideas on which this republic are based in terms of science and philosophy. Well, the key man historically that began the process in philosophy of taking down all of these values, all of these orientations, was the Robespierre of philosophy, according to the German poet Heine, Immanuel Kant. And what Immanuel Kant did was create this false dichotomy between the world that exists as real and the world that you come to know through your senses and through the categories that come to know your senses, and that you really can't know the real world. You only, and he called that world the noumena, and he called the world that you know through your senses and your categories that you bring to the world as the phenomena. And this is false, because when the human being, through great effort and imagination, makes a creative discovery in science, and it turns out that discovery is valid and is applied to change the nature of the productive powers of the human population, you're actually changing the universe. You're actually changing the world. And you cannot be changing the world that way if there was this if there was this actual separation between the world that you cannot know and the world that you can only know through the senses and through your. So this is where the whole phenomenology begins, that becomes the basis also of existentialism, that goes through Hegel, it goes through Nietzsche, it goes through Heidegger, it goes into the modern period, and it's a total assault on this idea that there's anything truthful. This basically you and your view and your narrative and your and the way you see things is the only thing you have, and and in Heidegger you're thrown into a situation and you adapt according to the situation. There is no idea of personal responsibility for the future or for a family or for whatever. And this is the mentality that you're dealing with in all of the sociology and psychology and so forth. This current, which is key in Kant, which goes through all of these different fields, and most of all, Kant. So this is what we're up against. We're up against several centuries of philosophical assault on the idea of what a human being is, and the idea of our truly creative nature as a species. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with several centuries of assault. And we see that culminating in the current period with this George Soros-led identity politics. There's no connection between anything these people are doing and anything that has to do with the future of humanity, with the improvement of the conditions of life of the world, or anything like that. It's all purely individuals who are obsessed with an aspect of their identity, and it doesn't connect. And the average person, the average working person out there, is totally divorced from this, and they wonder why we're putting up with all of this. But the media is just overwhelmingly promoting all of this. It's being promoted as a messianic culture of our values. This is what Obama means by our values. This is what Angela Merkel means by our values. They don't mean Christian values or Muslim values or Confucian values or Buddhist values or anything like that. They mean this what Lavrov discusses, this messianic, post-Christian messianism. How many more minutes? Okay. Sorry. So that's where we are now. We're at a decisive turning point. We have a new paradigm coming into the world, where China and Russia are putting forward a paradigm of scientific and technological progress, which is a complete violation of the our values crowd, of their values, of their Heideggerian, existentialist, phenomenology values. And the idea that we're going to transform the universe through our development of our knowledge, and we're going to use that to improve the conditions of life of every person on the planet, is a complete attack on everything that Kant represents all the way through to Heidegger and all the post-Heideggerian philosophers and psychologists and so forth and so on. And so that's what we're up against, folks. It's not just simply, it's not geopolitics, it's not Russia, it's not China, it's a deeper civilizational issue. Are you for civilization? Are you for humanity in civilization? Are you for developing civilization? Are you for destroying civilization? Because it interferes with your so-called freedom, the freedom from good, the freedom from the obligation to do good. The tyranny of the good. That's what you're freeing yourself from when you join all these things, when you get involved in all these things.